Mike, are you
Good.
pulling out notes? What is that?
I want to take down notes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Word.
Okay. So, if you're listening to this, we have recorded many episodes that have had issues with our audio. So hopefully this time we can deliver our piping hot takes. But first, we're going to start off with some introductions. If you're new, this is obviously our first episode, so things are going to be a little rough. I am Killa Cam, and yeah, I mean, you've read the title already. We're here to kind of talk about the chapter, talk about speculation, and talk a little bit of shit. I'm a Sanji fan, and I am not happy with the way that Oda has been treating my boy, but I'll let the rest of the crew introduce themselves before we jump in.
I'm as it is right now, I am Mugiwara Mike, and I am here to rebuttal at my finest abilities.
Indeed. What up, y'all? Peace and blessings. This is Mr. Wild and Free. And yeah, I'm gonna talk my thing too, you know. So.
Okay, all right. And this is Anime Parlay. Again, first episode. The whole thing here, right, is that we just talk about things that we love. One Piece, hopefully down the line, more anime, more manga, and really just kind of get into what we love about it, maybe some criticisms and stuff like that, and really kind of just dive into some hot takes within the meta. All right, so just kind of jumping in, chapter 1140. I give like a quick recap or something like that, and then we can kind of get into thoughts and maybe future speculation. So basically, where we left off, Luffy is basically like squaring up with Scopper. Scopper, when obviously Zoro and Sanji are there as well. There's like some back and forth. We get to see some interesting feats from Scopper. He gets his axes. He does an attack, at least for right now, as far as we're concerned, before maybe the official translation comes out. It's called Grim Throng. Basically, just it looks like it just sends like kind of slashes out, which are pretty powerful. It destroys the upper kind of castle rampart, which I don't know. I'm going to talk about that in a second because I think we needed to see a little bit more scale because that is pretty badass. But I don't know, just whatever. Anyways, that alerts Zoro. Zoro kind of gives us a hint that like that's a really strong attack. Luffy goes straight into gear 5th, and Scopper calls it quits. Basically says, "Listen, if Elbaf is still here or still safe by the time that you guys are done or ready to leave, then come find me." They're like, "Oh no, we're not going to find you." Excuse me, F off. And basically we transition into the Gods Knights. We see Shamrock, Gunko. They summon 2 more Gods Knights, Saint Summer and Saint Quillo something, who basically is kind of like this folklore Japanese. I think it's a yokai or it's a like mythical god. We'll get into that also. So anyway, that is the chapter. We have the introduction of 2 more Gods Knights that are there, and it looks like Shamrock should be being recalled back to Mary Joie, but it looks like he's going to suggest a game, at least before they leave. So,
right.
Very darling of him.
Yes, yeah. So right. We don't really know what that means, but we have obviously some contextual historical examples of a game being played, God's Valley, where a lot of people got killed. So
indeed,
we shall see where things go. All right, guys, what were your thoughts on the chapter?
Another great one. Lots revealed here. A lot of great setup for something major. However this game turns out to be, you know, like whether it's a direct one-to-one correlation to what happened at God Valley or something else entirely, you know, just seeing the additional God's Knights, and yeah, it's definitely a fascinating chapter for sure. And I loved the moments with Scopper, Gyaban, right? And Luffy when they were fighting with the key, and like when he like pushed the key into Luffy's face and his like face took the shape of the key. That was hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like yeah, this was definitely a fun one. Like I will say that like it was nice to see Scopper like truly get introduced and like we get a little bit of power scaling. It seems like he has Conqueror's hockey, which is I mean, I don't know, kind of expected. But it
Yeah.
was nice seeing a little bit of back and forth. I will say this, and again, I'm like the resident hater here. I do wish we could have seen a little bit more. I wish we could have seen a couple more feats. Like I know that we're just trying to quickly establish that Scopper Gavon is strong. I mean, I think everybody already kind of had that in mind. But I do wish we could have seen just a little bit more because you know he presses
Yeah.
Luffy, he presses Zoro. Zoro like immediately is alerted to the danger, and we kind of get like the fact that Zoro reacted in that way shows us that obviously this is a very powerful attack and maybe would have
Hmm.
done some serious damage to Luffy had it hit. Had Zoro not, I mean, it looks like based on the panel, blocked it in some way. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. I do wish that we could have seen just a little bit more because it does feel like it ends very quickly. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I did love seeing Scopper. Obviously, he seems still very powerful, which is interesting. It's kind of curious. It seems like he's going to sit this one out.
Yeah.
It's funny. Grand
He's like, call me
Line,
when the drama's done.
yeah. Like Grand Line Review, like he dropped a video a couple days ago, and he kind of talked about. He's like, dude, you have a son on this island and a wife. Like why would you set this one out? It's kind of interesting,
Yeah.
but obviously it's plot purposes. Uh,
Likely. And who knows if he'll sit it out completely, right?
yeah.
Perhaps there's a very specific reason that he or a duty that he must attend to in the midst of everything going on, right? So I do think that there's still more to be revealed. And perhaps it's more so just his interactions with Luffy
Hmm.
that'll be postponed until this whole thing comes to a close. I'm not even sure if he himself knows exactly what's about to unfold there. I'm sure
Yeah, I
he
don't think he
has,
does.
an idea that, okay, hey, like times are changing a little bit. There's something ominous that might be creeping around the corner, but I don't think he knows exactly what's about to unfold. So I think once things really start to escalate there, I wouldn't imagine that he's going to be sitting completely dormant, even if he's completely off screened for the entire time, right?
Hmm.
Perhaps there will be something he's doing on the back end that is serving the purpose of protecting his family or protecting something, right? Whether or not it's not just this key that's in Elbaf that needs protecting and overseeing, right? Maybe there's something else very similar to this key
Hmm.
that should also be safeguarded, So I hold out a little bit of space and belief in thinking that, yeah, there's a purpose for that. And yeah, I do agree. I would have loved to see more from the fight, but I also understand why it was as brief as it was. I think that that's a testament to everything else that's to come, right? And I don't think Oda wanted to spend too much time on this, trying to power scale him and all of that.
Hmm.
As we have already understood, like old age does have an impact, right? Like, yeah, we've seen Garp do some amazing things. Yeah, we've seen Rayleigh do some amazing things. And now Scopper. But like Rayleigh has said, right, like with old age, there is a decline there. So I think that it ended in a way that was fair enough to show, like, okay, yeah, no, this is a guy that was rightfully the left wing of the Pirate King.
Hmm.
And at the same time, it didn't belabor the point in any way.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I
um
could see that.
Mm.
I think he's going to get activated pretty quick once Colin gets kidnapped, and
Mm.
we're gonna see some action on his
Right.
end. But yeah, I agree. I don't think he knows exactly what's about to go down.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on a couple points from this chapter that I noticed. Just a quick
Yeah.
recap from my end.
Sure. Yeah.
I think this actually revealed a lot about their magic system.
Hmm.
They mentioned that this is called the Abyss, and
Right.
in previous spoilers, it was called Void. And
Yeah.
let's see, they say
Similar.
the Abyss will be where now, and that's where Saint Summers shows up. He's like talking about it, and he just like shows up. Gunko has the ability to also create these summoning circles. So it's like a power within, like, I think that she has like permission to do this in some kind of way, because otherwise they would just be activating it themselves. Or maybe it's just from the point, like someone can do it at one time. But they also mentioned that you cannot be summoned without the mark. So I thought that was pretty interesting too, that they all have these marks. And Saint Summers, right from Rip, they show he's got a huge arm sleeve with some pretty like magic kind of runes and like shapes of some sort. And then I don't see anything on that with Saint Chillingham, but he's clearly a very interesting character.
Yeah,
definitely
but it's
some
because
lore
he's
here.
Clothed, right?
Right.
So we have not seen their arms.
Exactly.
Well, he also says that they all don't have the mark. I think Gunko might not have the mark, just because basically he says like, yeah, because not everybody has the mark, we're gonna have to take them by ship.
That
You know
refers to
that's
the
everyone
kids.
outside of the God Knights.
Yeah. Gunko did get summoned in with
right.
Oh, you're talking about like the kids themselves, they have to go on ship because they can't take them to the abyss. I got you.
And it's assumed that this is something that you acquire once you become a God's Knight. You get some kind of mark. Maybe this is what Emu puts on them or something like that. This is some type of power transfer. I think, to me, it's headcanon, but I think all of this has some kind of connection to Emu's power.
I hope it's not a devil fruit, though, because this is like, if it is a devil fruit, it's the most OP devil fruit that we've ever seen. I mean, it's on some like Nen specialist kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where you can just
fun.
Mark people and create demons and people are immortal. It does too many things. If it's a devil fruit, like it just does too much.
I think it's going to be one of these psycho...
Is a sea devil? Then that'd be interesting.
I think it's going to be one of these psycho mythological devil fruits that's on like the level of Luffy's in like ridiculousness, but it's not going to be Looney Tunes. It's going to be like summoning
demonic power,
necromancer type shit. And but
and that's I can agree with that. Because I think that, you know, when Vegapunk talked about the nature of the power of devil fruits, right? Like he really was saying like basically the extent of the power that one can achieve with this thing is only limited by their imagination, you know? And so for something like this to exist in the hands of Emu, I think it's not unprobable for it to be a devil fruit if we were to take that into consideration and match it up with the likes of, okay, maybe it's mythical Zoan, some kind of god type power, or, you know, mythical Logia, like something like whatever it is, right? So I'm not against the idea of thinking that this could still be some kind of devil fruit related power, but I'm also of the mindset that this could just be a completely separate power system that is emerging, and we're just getting bits and pieces of the information as we go along.
Right. Because they are feeding us a little info.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get what you guys are saying. I don't know if it would be a complete power system, just because I don't know if Luffy and crew and anybody else other than the God's Knights and Emu or whatever will ever have access to it. It seems like it's more so just kind of like an ability that exists in this world, similar to like the Rokoshiki, like the 6 abilities of like the CP9. But I don't know, getting back to like the Scopper and Luffy thing, I think one thing that I thought was really interesting, probably the most interesting thing of the fight, other than like that attack putting Zoro on edge, was the flashback that we got with Shanks talking to Scopper, right? And obviously they know each other, they've met, you know, because Scopper's lived on the island for 20 years and Shanks is the protector of the island. So obviously they would have a relationship, but specifically Shanks is still talking about Luffy and he's still telling the older generation about Luffy and like that he's effectively this second coming of,
Basically.
Roger or Joy Boy or whoever, but that he really sees a lot of potential in Luffy, which I thought was interesting. And I also thought it was pretty funny that Scopper had made that joke about Shanks being a cheapskate and not just giving him the hat.
Right.
Yeah.
I just thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's an interesting aspect of the lore. So Scopper obviously knows of Luffy and I mean clearly was testing him, right? And I guess just seeing the fact that he awakened the Gomu Gomu no Mi and like has a, I don't know, protecting crew, like a good crew.
A good crew, I think, was a
Yeah.
tipping point for him.
Yeah, was enough to be like, okay, I'm going to leave you alone. But, if you, when this is all over, if you want to basically reconnect, and then come find me, which obviously will happen.
It was, for sure. Yeah. And I would say, it was those two things, right? Like seeing the white form to kind of confirm with his own eyes, perhaps what Shanks was trying to express to him about Luffy. And then also seeing, okay, not only is this, the fabled return of Joy Boy or whoever it is, right? Like the sun god Nika, he's also got a fine crew that stands beside him that can actually help carry him through whatever's to come, right? So, okay, I can trust this. Let me let y'all go ahead and handle what y'all need to do here. And before y'all get out of here, then you can come talk to me.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I mean, and right now, Scopper still thinks that Luffy is just going to unlock Loki and basically have to rein him in, right? Because I think that's the only thing that Scopper would be alluding to by saying, if basically Elbaf is still safe, then come find me. It's kind of interesting though that like Scopper doesn't seem to have a read on Loki, right? Like he doesn't seem concerned of like Loki is actually a good guy and Loki should be freed. He seems to kind of just be like very.
I think he knows. That Loki is like not too bad, but is like a wild card and needs to be like reined in at a certain point. And if he has that ability,
for sure,
he can do whatever he wants with Loki. But yeah, I think he's not really concerned about Loki being released.
Well, it's interesting because he said that Shanks was the only person who was able to bring Loki in. So, I mean, obviously, Oda is setting up a kind of like high watermark of what Luffy would need to do to, truly be able to say that he's reuniting with Shanks on the same level. Right. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't think that Loki is going to be brought back and put back in chains. Like, I just don't think that's a very interesting choice narratively. I think that if anything, Luffy will help reform Loki.
I still think he's going to be a straw hat.
I mean, it'd be interesting. He definitely can't fit on the ship, so they'd just be like walking behind it.
Basically. Or they just enhance the Sunny with more of that mythical tree that's up there.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be interesting.
End up making a 100 times bigger Sunny.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would like that, though. They'd be like, nah, it's too big.
Yeah.
Like running around the ship trying to get to the cafeteria.
I thought it was also pretty interesting when they arrived. They were like, we're in Elbaf. Like, this isn't like a marked place, or this isn't a place that's a part of our like network, right? Or they wouldn't naturally go there. And they were like, are you visiting Harold's grave? Which gave me like a hint that like they had some connection to Harold. Why would we be here otherwise than seeing like Harold for some reason? So I do think that some of the hesitance to like release Loki and why Loki was captured was just because of the stability of Elbaf itself. And like without like someone to rein in Loki and work with him on like solving whatever Loki's problems were and whatever Harold was doing with the world government, that it was better to just have him locked up. But now that like he's going to be released, they're like, all right, like this shit is going to stir up Elbaf at another level right now. And we need like the Straw Hats by this person's side because he's going to finally realize that he maybe isn't the sun god.
Mhm.
And at that point,
Yeah.
he'll be able to be reined in. But as it is right now, he thinks he needs to destroy the world as sun god, Nika. And he
Mhm.
definitely has some previous like problems with Elbaf and whatever happened with the world government, because
Yeah.
it's an
I mean, I don't
interesting
take
take.
anything
I
that he
don't
says
think,
at face value.
yeah.
Well, the way that he's being introduced, I mean, there's going to be a flip or inversion on his perception. The way that he's been, like, everybody that lives in Elbaf has talked about him or referred to him has been like, he's a terrible person. He tried to kill the king, you know what I mean? Like, or he killed the king and, you know, is like a kinslayer and all this other kind of stuff. It actually kind of gives me Game of Thrones vibes as far as Jaime Lannister. But I don't know. It's just one of those kind of things where, like, Oda's doing a lot of work to make us feel as though Loki is seen as a pariah by the rest of the island,
Right.
right? And Luffy's the only one who sees something else, right? So I don't know. I do feel like, and obviously Luffy is our main character. His intuition is probably the purest and most correct. So I do feel like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that they won't fight in some way. It's possible, but I don't know if it'll be serious. And it definitely seems like Loki is on the path of reform or redemption, specifically with his interactions with Shamrock and Gunko being so honorable, right?
Mhm.
Like, instead of joining the God's Knights, he's like, no, you just have to actually kill me.
Well,
And
yeah,
if you're gonna,
homie's currently bleeding out right now. So it might cause a
Yeah,
whole different
technically.
reaction or like from him interaction. Like he might be going back to Chopper right now to get healed.
Yeah, facts.
You know,
Yeah.
like who knows? Like once he is taken care
Might
of,
be on his deathbed.
yeah, Luffy's gonna go giant form, carry him back somewhere, heal him up, and he's gonna be like, I don't owe you anything, but like they're gonna be friends after that or something. You know,
yeah.
Yeah.
just he's
Another perspective to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, he got 3 big ass swords in his stomach, so I'm just like, we didn't even see what happened after. I don't know if they just poofed out after that or if they're just.
He might have some kind of like mythological Zoan fruit that allows him to heal if he has the sea stone taken off of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
maybe that's,
That's fair.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because it might just be
that's a
like,
good point.
because it'd be hard to transport, like, I mean, maybe Road can do it, but like transport him extremely injured, like to Chopper. I don't know the geography because we haven't really gotten like the,
Mhm.
you know, kind of Oda box
Yeah.
where he shows us where all the Straw Hats are and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. It would be
I mean, I
interesting,
could-
and
yeah, I
it
could-
would make him seem, you know, again, like extremely powerful if you know,
Yeah.
unencumbered
If he
and
could heal.
his full power is unleashed.
Yeah, he shows
Yeah.
some type of healing power on the level of the world government would be insane.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it
could
would-
see Chopper going to him if
Yeah.
necessary, and I could also see Chopper having the aid of some in-house Elbaf giant doctors
Mm.
that are able to tend to the wounds of that size, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I do think that something else came to my mind about Loki being chained. Loki being chained up like that. His purpose there, why, the God's Knights may have been hesitant to make their move up until that point, and then also like the death of King Harold. It's like, what if he was chained up there not just because he was like, oh, going crazy and he was supposedly the one that killed King Harold and all of these kinds of things, but more so of like, King Harold represented a very important power balance between Elbaf and the world government and, Mary Joie and all of that. And with his passing, like they probably knew that, if there was not someone like Loki still present in Elbaf, they would be way too vulnerable to Mary Joie, the God's Knights, and the world government, right? And so perhaps maybe Loki is very free spirited and wanted to leave Elbaf, right? But they were like, no, you can't do that. We're going to have to chain you up and just keep you here because you need to be a figure of protection for us since you supposedly, quote unquote, killed King Harold, right? Like, you can't just leave, like, we need to keep you here for this. And so perhaps after this, who knows? We'll see. That's just a thought, headcanon completely. But, it's something that came to mind when I thought about why they would visit King Harold, the God's Knights visiting King Harold. And then also when when Shamrock was talking to Loki, right? And starting to realize like, okay, well, he's not going to crack. And he's chained up here. He can't go nowhere. I was able to deal what seems to be a fatal enough blow. They seem to be vulnerable enough for us to do what we need to do here and now, right? And so I do think it took them going there to see him like that in that state, for them to really make that connection.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think a lot of this, right, as with everything that is One Piece, it's just it is a slow kind of unraveling of like a greater story. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see. I do want to jump into the main topic, though. Why does Oda keep cucking Sanji? Can we talk about this, guys, for a second? Like,
it's hilarious.
Here's the hot take. As a Sanji fan, Sanji has been getting slapped around narratively by Oda again and again and again. And I know it probably seems like, what the heck is he talking about? Like, so I'll make it clear. Luffy is fighting the left hand of the Pirate King. Who is the left hand of Luffy?
All right. Sanji,
right?
Nowhere to
Sanji never gets to be like just with Luffy. It's him and Luffy. I mean, if they're not fighting literally and like beefing and like, or, he's feeding him something or something like that, Sanji never gets to just stand with Luffy alone. Like, you are my partner in crime. We are both going to go. Like, think in your head, like, when have you ever seen Luffy and Sanji, just those two, on any kind of like mission?
Right. They ain't two-man nothing.
They're never two-manning. They're never two-manning. It's always Zoro and Luffy. Zoro and Luffy.
Right.
Zoro and Luffy at the top of Onigashima, fighting, Big Mom and Kaido. And sure, he's the first mate. He's the second most powerful person on the crew. I hate to say that, but it's true. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, for this, like, I would have loved to have seen, like, just to shake it up a little bit, a Zoro, like, just you hang back, you drink and be with the pirates and drink, like their sake or ale or whatever they got going on down there. And Sanji goes maybe to follow Nami or something like that. I mean, you can write it however you want to write it. Maybe he's their protector, but like, that would just be so much more interesting, I think, sometimes where like, it is Luffy and Sanji, because I think just the humor is there, because, obviously Sanji is always making fun of Luffy, saying that he's dumb. But I think that would have been a nice moment to showcase the left hand of the future Pirate King vis-a-vis Sanji, but he never gets that shine. He never gets that look.
Yeah, and even like, now that you brought up like the whole two-manning thing, I even think it's rare that we've even seen the three of them, right? Like, like in a strong three-man position where it's like, okay, like, you can clearly see the delineation that it's Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, where none of the other Straw Hats are present, or no one else is, kind of taking that shine away from them standing against a force, right? Like, I do think that even that has been obscured a lot. And I think the gap between where Zoro stands and Sanji stands is like pretty significant, right? Like, even in the respects of like the Queen and King fights, right? Like, I think Sanji kind of got his moment there a little bit, but it just felt so separate from everything else, right? In regards to how like the interactions were, right? Like, even after the fact, in the reflections on it, or even kind of leading up to that moment, you see a lot of Zoro and Sanji, right?
Yeah.
too many, but you don't see Sanji with Luffy in that same way. And I do find that to be very interesting. So it's a valid point that you bring up.
I
I
mean,
think
but
that
even in that
yeah,
moment where like Sanji is talking to Zoro as he's prepared to fight Queen, and basically
yeah,
says like, if I lose my sense of humanity, kill me.
mm-hmm. Right,
If you're a Sanji fan, you're just bawling in the corner somewhere. Basically, your hero, your goat
crushed.
is just like, hey, rival, just kill me. I want you to kill me. If I get out of line, you
Hilarious.
have the power to just kill me like at will. So I need you
Well,
to
he
just
would
hit
let
that
him kill
delete
him.
button.
Yeah,
I mean, but if
exactly.
he lost control, he wouldn't though, right? He's
True.
entrusting Zoro because he knows that Zoro is
Right,
strong and is acknowledging Zoro's strength, like in
right,
willingness to kill
facts.
him. He's like, if I lose control, if I lose my humanity, if I'm not the Sanji that you guys know and love, I want you to be the person to put me down.
Yeah,
Like, which is crazy when you think about it. Again, it's like Sanji just acknowledges you're more powerful than I
Dude, I
am,
think
and
that's
I
so
want you to
dope.
yeah,
kill me.
I don't think he's saying you're
yeah,
more powerful. I think he's saying like,
yeah. I can,
come, like put me down, dude.
worst
Like
come to
I
worst.
don't want to like
Yeah,
live as someone like. And Zoro would fight to the death to put him down. You know, like
Mhm.
yeah.
Zoro isn't just like skit. I put you down like like a I don't
Make it
know,
easy.
make it easy. Yeah, it's not easy for him, but
Mm.
I think it like honors their friendship. It's like they are friends. They're like insane
Right.
rivals, but that's
Mhm.
their
Like
dynamic. Like
Goku and Vegeta.
yeah, they're friends. They respect the hell out of each other. But that's just they butt heads. But like, dude, that's like an awesome sign to see Sanji do something like that. Like break through that wall of their like dynamic. In my opinion,
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
guess I can see
I mean
how
I agree.
you are taking it. Like you or any Sanji fans would be like, "Oh, huge L," but I don't know.
I don't know if I would see Zoro doing that to Sanji. I feel like Zoro would ask Luffy. You know what I mean? I think Zoro would be like, Luffy, if I ever open up this
Oh yeah, for
sliced
sure.
demon eye and I, become a real demon god, Ashura of hell, like I want you to be the person to kill me. I think he'd ask Luffy that. I don't think he'd ask Sanji that. I don't think
I
Oh
think
Sanji.
if
yeah.
Luffy was there, Sanji would be asking Luffy too. But I
Hmm.
think if Zoro was in danger of losing his mind with only Sanji around, he would say the
Hmm.
same thing. He would entrust his Straw Hat crew member to put him down.
But
He'd
That
that's
be
the
was
like,
the
thing
"Hey
though.
Sanji, if
situation. Like
anything goes out of
Sanji
line,
wouldn't
Luffy
be able
wasn't there.
to. Sanji
right?"
wouldn't be
He'd be
able
like,
to though. That's the thing. And I'm a Sanji fan saying that, but Sanji
he'd
would
be like
not be able
Sanji.
to stop and put hands
He
on
would not.
Zoro. And the reason why is because Zoro has advanced Conqueror's Haki and Sanji doesn't.
Right.
It's a
Facts.
clear delineation in strength, period. That's full
If it was
stop.
a reverse,
But he
if
would
it was
ask
this a
him. I
reverse
really think so.
scenario,
Like,
Zoro would be like, "Hey Sanji, if anything goes wrong, tell Luffy to end it for
Yeah.
yeah, go get Luffy.
me. Go run and get
It's like,
Luffy.
Sanji,
Skywalk to
actually,
Luffy."
never mind. It's just like, come on.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, no.
Oh man.
Sanji has been
And,
getting very little
yeah.
love, and I mean, I do like the fact that in Wano he obviously gets a power up. I mean, first, to kind of pump fakes because he's like, okay, you've got the raid suit, and then I think he was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't feel like drawing him in this
Drawing
costume
that
all
shit
the time. This shit is goofy as hell. And then
Yeah.
he's like, okay, you have all the abilities of the raid suit, obviously minus invisibility, which Sanji loved, but really wasn't necessary to his character, to be honest. So it was just kind of like a nice, I guess, nice to have. But
Yeah.
anywho, which I still think would be foiled by anybody with observation hockey, but fine. He gets the powers of the raid suit anyways, which kind of doesn't make any sense, but whatever. Like it activates
Yeah.
his, I guess,
DNA.
latent genetic alterations that make him like have hard skin. I don't really know. It's kind of hard to say like
Exoskeleton.
what that did. I mean, obviously we see the effects. It makes him tougher, more durable, but
Yeah.
it's kind of confusing where it's like his body is like crumpled, like metal,
Yeah.
and he can.
Self healing exoskeleton.
Yeah,
Like
he's
there's a
super
couple of
hard. I mean,
aspects.
he
Yeah.
took like blows to the face and like it just didn't do anything. So obviously he's super durable. I don't know what that means in terms of Zoro's cutting ability. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where like there are hard power ups vis-a-vis hockey, vis-a-vis conquerors, vis-a-vis advanced conquerors that just set you apart on a different level than any other character. If you have that, you have effectively a spade that trumps anything else they got, right? So Sanji needs to develop that at some point, specifically if he is fighting against, or is going to be compared to the left hand of Roger, which again leads back to Sanji should have been there in that moment. He's the person who actually needs the power up. He's the person who actually needs the feats.
I think it's hard to say, like, all right, because Luffy and Zoro have a dynamic where they go together as a duo, that like I want the same thing for Sanji. Why doesn't Sanji get to do the duo? It's a very robotic way of like putting the characters, and like that you should expect them to be doing the same things. Like Sanji is a completely different guy than Zoro, and Sanji would never follow up on Luffy wanting to get Loki's key while there's like hot giant girls running around, and he's like he's up there. They're splitting up all of the strongest three from all the other crew members. I know they can take care of themselves, but like there's a point where it's like,
I don't know. I mean, I think they can write it.
I believe the
want.
point is this. I believe the point is this, right? Like Zoro and Sanji are Luffy's sword and shield, right? Zoro is the sword, right? So yes, he carries that forth. But when we think about what it means to be Luffy's shield, when we think about what Luffy cares about the most, it's his Nakama. And what we do see Sanji doing more often than not is staying back and protecting the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'll give him credit for.
Well, Zoro does that too, but I don't know. I mean, I think one, you can write in any kind of way, right? And like, Mike, I get what you're saying, but sometimes you have to shake it up. I'll give you a perfect example. If you ever watch like Friends or The Office or any kind of like, or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, any kind of multi-camera,
none of those
like,
actually.
Really?
I'm kidding.
Okay, perfect.
No,
but like the point being, right, is like they shake it up. It's like they pair different people with different people in order to like create new comedic moments. Sometimes, let's say It's Always Sunny, it's Dennis and Mac, right? But then sometimes it's Dennis and Dee, and then sometimes it's Dennis and Charlie or Frank or whatever. But like they flip it up to just create novelty, right? And I think in this particular example, Oda could have wrote it where it was, Sanji sees that Road is also a pervert, right? And that he's interested in Nami and he feels jealous, envious, he wants to kind of bogart Nami. So he follows them to keep Nami safe, right? And in that process, he
being there
basically meets, obviously Scopper and then whatever. And, maybe he defends Nami from one of these flying slashes or whatever. And I mean, like I said, you can write it in a lot of different ways to put Sanji in that moment. Maybe Zoro again hangs back. He wants to drink, right? Because obviously he's like an avid drinker. He loves sake. He loves alcohol, that kind of stuff. Would stay with the Elbaf pirates. And then if they get attacked, then you have Zoro, second in command of the crew to basically protect them. I think you could write it that way as well. I think
that's fair.
Oda likes Zoro, obviously. I think he just knows that Zoro is a very popular character. I think Zoro is almost always like number 2 or number 3, depending on flaws in the popularity poll. So I think Zoro, or even just from like his editor standpoint, I think Zoro just gets a lot of love because he's a fan favorite, right? More so, to be honest, than Sanji.
They get the Goku and Vegeta treatment. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, and keep in mind, like Zoro is a mainstay of the crew. He's been around. He's the first member to join. He's been around for forever. Like, you can even argue that Zoro is sort of kind of like he predates Luffy in a sense, just because he was in the one-shot monsters, right? And I don't really know how the timing of like Romance Dawn and all this other kind of stuff works, but either way, like Zoro has been a character in the mind of like Oda for a while, right? So he is going to get a little bit more love. I guess my point is like, I do feel like that does come at the expense of developing other characters, specifically in this case, Sanji, specifically in this moment. you are facing off against the left hand of the Pirate King, and Sanji's nowhere to be found. Now, you can make the argument that Zoro was nowhere to be found when it came to any kind of interactions with Silvers, like Rayleigh. Like, that was all kind of reserved for Luffy. And that's fine, right? I mean, obviously, Roger's dead, so, if there's going to be a mentor figure, it would be Silvers rather than, somebody else. But yeah, I don't know. It is one of those kind of things where I do think maybe it's a little bit of a missed opportunity, but regardless, I think Sanji, I feel like as a Sanji fan, we're always kind of asking, like, we need more Sanji love. We need more Sanji love. But then he gets the love, but it just feels inadequate, right? Like, he's in Zoe and then he loses to, like, Capone Beige. You know what I mean? Like, what? And then, like, we see him in Dressrosa.
Capone goes hard, dude.
I know. But, like, he should... I understand the timing of that. Like, this is another supernova pirate captain. Like, technically, like, if
he should have
Sanji beat him, then it, like, really kind of nerfs him a little bit. Or, like, makes him look weak, but whatever.
Right.
And he kind of, like, out-strategized him a little bit. Because I think he ended up, putting, like, a gun to, like, Nami's head or something.
Yeah,
and
I completely forgot about that match.
Yeah, he, like, kind of forced him to, like, give up. But whatever, right? Yeah. Sanji gets captured, unfortunately, by force. He ends up in not Dressrosa, Whole Cake Island. And then it's like, okay, this is a Sanji arc. Sanji's going to have like a crazy big moment. He fights his dad. He does well until his dad like cheats and basically uses like a clone to like basically take the damage of an attack. Sanji pulls back and then basically gets, beaten by his dad, which was unfortunate because his dad is like extremely weak from what we can tell. Sanji, let's see, in that arc, I mean, he kind of just, again, kind of gets cucked around. I mean, he makes a cake. It doesn't really do anything. He doesn't really have any major feats. There's no main villain that he fights. He fights like the genie guy. I forget his name. Daifuku, I think, who just gets introduced like almost like at the end of the arc. It's like, oh yeah, there's another brother. Like him and Oven, they're like really tight and he's got genie powers and the genie is really powerful or whatever. It like looks like he's covered in hockey, but maybe not. Maybe he isn't. I don't know. And then like, yeah, I mean, that's basically it for the arc. And then obviously we go to Wano. He gets to use the raid suit finally and then dumps the raid suit and then he gets the power up anyways. But like, I feel like there's a lot of focus on Sanji, but it never really results in like a remarkable power up. The last major feat that he ever had, at least in my opinion,
that was remarkable.
Let me contrast it with this. Sanji basically in the Dressrosa arc saves the crew by directly confronting the arc's main antagonist, Doflamingo. Like that was a bad moment.
Yeah, it was.
That no one was expecting. Right. It was the same thing as like Zoro taking out Hody Jones in in Fishman Island.
Yeah, true.
When he just like sliced him. Was like, wait, is that the end of the arc? Like, that's crazy.
That was a moment.
When Sanji like run, like, cause like Doflamingo in those panels somehow was like flying through the sky because he was using his threads like attached to clouds, which doesn't really make any sense, but whatever. He's like frantically like running towards the crew to just destroy them. And then Sanji jumps up out of the ship and then meets him in the air and then clashes with the kick. It was bad And I'm trying not to curse, but you get my point.
Oh, you already started the podcast by cursing.
I know. I have to bleep it out. But the point being is like, that was such, even because no one expects Sanji to win in that moment, right? But he held his own decently well, even though he like said he was like almost breaking his leg, just defending against the attack. But the point being is like that was an incredible feat for Sanji, and we haven't had a moment like that since, despite basically an entire arc being dedicated to him having major fights in Wano, and obviously now Egghead was kind of like a wash. I mean, he what did he do in that arc? He like defended the crew. He like got Vegapunk killed, basically. Luffy's like, take Vegapunk and get out of here. And he's like, I got you. And then like immediately Vegapunk gets like shot with a laser and then stabbed through the chest. Like it was terrible.
I was trying to create like a lot of stories of why Sanji would let that happen.
Oh
but
my
it never
gosh!
came
It's
to
like,
fruition. I was like, Vegapunk told him to do that. Yeah, like
Sanji, you
there's
had
no way.
one job, dude, and you failed miserably. You got his
One
dead
job.
body on the ship. That's what you did. Luffy asked you to take
Oh
him and
my
take care of him,
god.
and you took his dead body on the ship.
Oh my god.
Arrives with the dead body.
Yeah.
Here
He's
he
like, Luffy,
And
I
is.
did it.
honestly,
It's like,
yeah, that
bro.
was an L that was reserved for Sanji because it could have been a very great moment for Sanji, right? Had he been able to successfully protect
Yeah.
Vegapunk, we would be talking about that moment the same way we're talking about that clash with Doflamingo,
Yeah.
right? Like imagine that, like if one of the Elder Stars like came in to attack, or if
Mm.
who was it, Kizaru, right? Came in to kill Vegapunk and he was able to successfully fend them off, like not just deflect one attack, but like fend them off as he is protecting Vegapunk.
Mm.
That would have really made him live up to that title of being Luffy's shield, right? That would have been incredible. But for dramatic effect, that L needed to be taken, and I just don't think Oda likes Sanji. And he's like, yeah, Sanji's the
He's
perfect
gonna
person
give
to
him the
take this
L. If
L.
there's an L to
You
he's
guys
gonna give it
actually
to him.
think Oda doesn't like Sanji?
I
You
don't think
keep
he actually
saying
likes Sanji.
Honestly, this has been something in the community for a while because like Oda sets up Sanji to like have a moment and then rips it away from him like every single time. It's like Charlie Brown and like the football. Like
Right.
Lucy sets it up
Oh
and
my
then he like
god.
goes for it and then he like just
That's
completely
hilarious.
whiffs it and he thinks that he's gonna get the kick every time and he's never literally
Right.
Sanji thinks he's gonna get the kick every time and he never does. I mean the thing too, right, is like Sanji used to have like such an interesting role in the crew
Yeah.
because he was always working behind the scenes. He was like kind of like the Shikamaru of the crew. He was the smartest. He was always thinking about like the strategy and kind of political angles. I mean, there's a couple different examples that I can name. Little Garden,
Mhm.
first one that comes to mind, where he picks up the phone and talks to Crocodile directly. He uses an alias and then basically kind of, I forget like the actual accomplishment because he like kills like the bird like member of Baroque Works, like just snaps its neck. Like, and I think he kills like an otter or something like that. He just kills animals. But he basically goes in there and he like kind of threatens, like he pretends to be somebody and like, I forget the purpose of it, but like kind of either threatens Crocodile or like misleads him and gives him bad information or something like that. Obviously, we have like the quintessential
Yeah.
example of Sanji coming in clutch with Enos Lobby by opening up the some kind of gate or something like that. Obviously, he allows the crew to escape when the Thousand Sun, or not the Thousand Sun, when the Going Merry arrives to save them. Sanji's just always been doing that kind of stuff behind the scenes. He always kind of like, he's kind of like a spy. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of like a secret agent kind of spy. Like even there's a great video on YouTube I highly suggest it, but like this dude gets on the sea train that's going to Enos Lobby, and he fights like all of CP5 and like a whole bunch of like CP like Cypherpol agents like solo. You
Yeah.
guys remember this in Water
No,
7?
I do not.
Yeah.
He like gets on the sea train and basically just solos. Like this is when he fights the guy, the I forget the guy's name. He like
Not the wolf one.
no, he like has like pasta, not powers, but like he makes like he made like a suit of armor with pasta, like ramen or whatever. And then that's like one of the first times that we see Sanji grab knives, and he looks like he's proficient at using knives and like completely just dismantles this dude. And then
he's supposedly like the better with knives. He just doesn't use his hands.
Yeah, exactly.
If he were to use knives,
like it'd be game over.
I mean,
that's what they're implying.
It's possible he would rival Zoro. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
He would be Sung Jin Woo from Solo Leveling.
I mean,
like assassin level with the deck.
Yeah, basically
it'd be different, but
it'd be nuts. But anyway, so like he solos that train. Like so, Sanji has had particularly pre-time skip, has had moments where he just operates independently, is forward thinking, is super clutch, is all to your point, Mr. Waterfree, like he's always thinking about the next steps, right? He's playing chess, not checkers. I hate that expression, but it's very apt here.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen a lot of that in the New World, and it's unfortunate. So, yeah, I don't know. I think as a Sanji fan, Yeah, just we need to see some Sanji love. More Sanji love. No more football rips.
I didn't know I was
I'll be
coming
fair.
2v1 into this conversation, Sean.
That's no, because what's crazy is I was just about to say, even as not a Sanji fan, because I'm not a Sanji fan, to be completely honest.
Huge Sanji fan.
But even I am like, I'm struggling to be a strong Sanji fan. Even as someone who struggles to be a Sanji fan, right? I agree. I happen to agree. Like, it would be nice to have more love for Sanji. I think that he has had some amazing moments, but there was just, in my opinion, too many blemishes, right, across his whole character arc. And I think that that's what weighs the heaviest on me. So, like, the things that I remember most about Sanji is the fact that he was beating up Luffy. And I'm like, I don't like that. And it's like, same way, I mean, that still kind of stings for me with Usopp. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the two of them, in my mind, I'm like, and I know people gonna hate me for that, but that's just how I feel. Like, when they put hands on Luffy, it just made me feel a type of way. I'm like, y'all.
Yeah, and he chose that too. He chose to do that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, obviously,
like,
he was trying to get Luffy to abandon his goal of rescuing Sanji, right?
Yeah.
Sanji wanted to basically, I mean, I don't know. Whole Kick Island is such a retread of the best human elements of Enies Lobby. It's kind of unfortunate. It gives like very like Hueco Mundo arc from Bleach vibes, where it's like, let's just do the same thing again.
Like, with a different character.
Yeah, it's not Rukia this time. It's Orihime. He's got to go save Orihime now. Like, but anyway, so like,
hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, Sanji in that moment chooses to attack Luffy like pretty brutally. I mean, obviously, he's crying, but it's like, dude, you attacked your captain, bro. Like, I get like you could have accomplished the same thing by just yelling out at them, like, but you chose to like do your strongest attack
physically
and just go right up into the air and bring it right down on your captain's head, who ate it, by the way. And like, you know what I mean? Like, he's crying, but it's like, dude, like that's a hard watch to go back to. But I don't. I mean, even so, I mean, you mentioned something else, like within the pre-time skip, there is that moment where Sanji is kind of like a leader figure, specifically when Luffy is saying to Usopp in Water 7 before they fight, like, basically, you can just leave then, right? Sanji is the one, not Zoro. Sanji is the one who immediately attacks Luffy as he's saying that, because he's basically saying, like, dude, if you say that, that is more or less like irrevocable damage that you're putting on the crew that's going to destroy our bond, right?
Wait,
as
that
like
was
not
Sanji?
That was Sanji.
Wait, what?
You're thinking maybe Zoro. Zoro is the person who's like, after the fight, because basically Luffy's like, well, let's just invite him back. Let's just apologize, whatever. Like, we need to bring him back. And Zoro's the person who's like, no, Usopp left the crew. He made his decision. If you're a man and if you're a pirate, like if you're a real captain, like, because we're really like doing this thing, you can't just accept him back unless he apologizes. Because if you do that, if it's easy to leave the crew, if it's easy to leave like this mission, like our conviction to make you the Pirate King, if it's easy to do that, then I'm out. Right. Yeah. And then that's, to be honest,
that goes hard.
Time skip is so good because you have those kind of dramatic moments that, like, again, interpersonal kind of like growth of the crew together. Right. Because you had Nico Robin leave the crew right at that point. And then you have Usopp threatening to leave the crew. Like, they were really at their breaking point at that point. It was really like great kind of development, and obviously so cathartic when Usopp comes back and they welcome Frankie and everything like that. But again, Sanji was the person who like recognized Luffy. You can't just say that kind of stuff and like physically acted to stop him. You got to go back and watch that scene. It's incredible. But yeah, Sanji used to have that like mature, like, I'm the kind of adult in the room kind of energy, along with Zoro, by the way.
Yeah.
But we just haven't really seen that since, which is unfortunate.
He's been very silly lately. He's been a very silly goose, running around, loving all the girls.
I mean, every island is the same thing. It's like, where are the girls at?
Yeah.
Where the hoes at?
That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, y'all, I gotta hop off. I have like 15 minutes before my next session. My
Yeah,
live
no
stream.
worries. I mean, I think this has been a good session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that basically kind of wraps it up. Hopefully Sanji gets some love. As far as speculation on the chapter, I mean, we can kind of end it there. What do you guys think is going to happen in the next chapter? Or just, the future
I'm
of the
actually
arc?
in the dark. Like, this is one of those chapters where I have no idea how it's going to go, what's going to happen. I don't know what the game is that Garling's cooking up. I don't know what Scopper's going to be doing when the kids get kidnapped. I don't know how Loki's going to get freed where he's got his guts are all over the place. I don't know what the crew's going to be doing to defend the kids. Like, it's all in the air for me. Yeah. I don't know what the damn owl's going to be up to.
There's a lot of moving parts, right? Because you got to think about what's the geography? Where is everybody, right? So Nami, Luffy, Zoro, they are now trying to go effectively unlock and sort of kind of rescue Loki. Frankie is in his own little section. I think he's with Chopper in like that upper level or whatever with the Atom Tree, and is seeing like the history of the world, right? Which obviously Nico needs to be there at some point. Nico, I think, is hanging out with Saul, and then the rest of the crew is basically just drinking at the party.
I thought Chopper was with Robin too. Chopper and Robin were in the library because Chopper was. Oh,
you're right.
Doctor books.
Chopper is with Robin in the library, and Saul is there as well. So it'd be interesting. I don't know how Saul is going to play out because I don't think that he can die in this arc. I mean, that would just be like pretty cruel.
I feel it coming.
You think so?
What?
I don't know, man.
I don't see a reason
I don't
him to
think
die.
They would reunite.
He's already escaped death once,
and we're still waiting for Vegapunk to come back because he's like effectively going to resurrect himself. There's a lot of moving parts here. It'll be interesting. Oda's doing a lot, so I know we can wrap things up there.
Okay.
If you guys have been listening this long, we appreciate it. This is Anime Parlay. We just kind of shoot the crap, talk about the chapter, talk about all things One Piece and additional anime in the future. So if there's anything that you guys want to see, anything that you guys want to see us talk about, any kind of hot takes, if you agree with us, if you didn't agree with us, if you hate me, I hate you back. I'm just kidding. But yeah, this is Anime Parlay. I am Killa Cam, and I'll let everybody else kind of give their sign-offs before we close this thing out.
Yeah,
man, it's wild and free.
Yeah, it's Mike. That was awesome. Sanji rules.
All right, and no break. So we got another chapter coming next week. So
nice.
We'll run this back pretty soon.
Sweet.
Love to see it.
All right, you guys. Take it easy.
Take it easy.
All right, y'all. Peace and blessings.